Hello, everybody, and welcome to the J Sports NFL Show. I am your host, Joshua Nowakowski. Happy to be with you today. The divisional round is all set as the games are quickly approaching, just a couple of days away. Today, I will be giving you my thoughts and predictions on every single game. Before we get started, though, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in to the J Sports NFL Show and has given their thoughts on my podcast/show and ways that this show could be improved. I want to say thank you to everybody for all of the kind words. I'll continue to do my best to deliver you with quality content. This episode, you will see some new features in this episode that I am trying to incorporate into this and make it more like a show. You know, it is called the J Sports NFL Show, so I want to make it more of a show-like feel. So I'm going to try incorporating some of those elements into the episode today. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Just give me your thoughts on the things that I've incorporated, if you like them, if you don't like them, where there can be improvement. I got the mic set up again. The camera's coming. So I had a camera from a while ago. Unfortunately, the adapter that gets used, because I'm recording on my MacBook, I can't fit two of them inside the two adapters at once. So I did order a new adapter that will be able to fit the camera and the mic. So it's Amazon. So next episode, we should get a lot better camera quality, which will be awesome. But I think that's all I've got. Before we continue, before we get into these predictions, if you haven't already, follow me on all social media so you know when episodes come out. All of those social medias are going to be linked down in the description of the episode. It's going to have my YouTube, going to have my Instagram, going to have my Twitter, X. It's going to have my TikTok, if it's still around. Who knows? It's going to have all of those. And so if you haven't already, follow, like, subscribe to the channel on YouTube so you are ready for when episodes come out. All right, so now that we've gotten all of that business out of the way, let's get into today's show. Our first game is going to be Saturday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. as the Houston Texans hit the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Texans are coming off of their upset win over the Chargers, where they played arguably their best game all season. Quarterback C.J. Stroud made big plays when the Texans needed it most and showed glimpses of that rookie C.J. Stroud that took the league by storm last year. C.J. made a couple great plays that were needed to lead the Texans to victory. Wide receiver Nico Collins, to no surprise, was CJ's go-to player, having 7 catches, 122 yards, and 1 touchdown. But it was the Texans' defense that stepped up and forced 4 interceptions on their way to victory. Now, the Texans will have their work cut out for them because the Chiefs have now had a week off and look to start their journey at a potential 3-peat. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes has had plenty of time resting and getting his ankle to 100%. And this year, he had his ups and downs, had some turnover issues earlier in the season, had some games where he wasn't throwing as many touchdowns. But even in a down year for Patrick Mahomes, he still had almost 4,000 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. And the Chiefs are also getting healthy at the right time, because within these last couple of weeks, they've gotten back not only running back Isaiah Pacheco, but wide receiver Hollywood Brown. And now, who can forget star tight end Travis Kelce, who, despite having a career-low 3 touchdowns, he will be Mahomes' go-to target this postseason, like he has been in the past 2 postseasons with the Chiefs. Now, these two teams did meet less than a month ago in Week 16. That game was in Arrowhead, same location the game is going to be at on Saturday, with the Chiefs ultimately winning that game 27-19. I'm sure you saw the highlights if you're watching the show here. You saw the highlights playing. There's some highlights from that Week 16 game. Now, this was the game that Tank Dell suffered his season-ending injury. The Texans were able to keep that game close, but in the end, Chiefs get the win. But still, one-score game. Now, as I look at this game, I really do want to pick the Texans because they have found their stride, but the Chiefs are so dominant on both sides of the ball as they went 15-2 this year. You know, I know they had a couple of a lot of one-score games, a lot of close games coming down to the very end. They still went 15-2. I mean, that's still a dominant record in the NFL. Now, the Chiefs have the second best third down completion percentage in all of the NFL at 48.5%. And their defense has also been crucial in this team's success, only giving up 19 points per game, which is fourth best in the entire NFL. The Texans' O-line will have their hands full once again with George Karlaftis and Chris Jones ready to get pressure to quarterback C.J. Stroud. Now, will the Texans' O-line be up to the task like they were last week? I think only time will tell. So, it's time for the keys to victory. First, we're going to start with the visiting Houston Texans. Can you steal a possession or two / give your offense good field position? Now, the Texans were able to put their offense in positions to succeed last game when they picked off Justin Herbert 4 times and gave their offense great field position, which led to the Texans scoring. Technically, their offense scored 25 points, even though they scored 32 in the game because they had the pick six. So 25 offensive points. Now, the Texans offense will have their hands full already with this Chiefs defense, and they're still down those two wide receivers, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. The Texans will need to get good field position to start their possessions. And if the defense can get to Mahomes, maybe force a fumble, maybe force an interception, that will give Houston a shot at the upset. However, getting turnovers from Mahomes will be a very tall task, as over his last 2 playoff runs, so that's 7 games, Mahomes has only thrown 1 interception. So, in the Chiefs going back-to-back Super Bowl champs, in those playoff games, only 1 interception from quarterback Patrick Mahomes. But can Derek Stingley and this defense maybe force a turnover, maybe get the Chiefs some momentum that they need? Now, on the other side of the ball, the key to victory for the Chiefs is protect Patrick Mahomes and throw the ball quickly. This Texans pass rush duo of Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, also D'Amico Autry, all there, caused havoc to the Chargers' interior offensive line last game. To prevent that from happening to the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday, they will need to game plan for quick slant passes so Mahomes can deliver the ball quickly and back off that Texans pass rush, I should say, back off their blitzing, as they'll most likely then drop back in coverage, and that's when Mahomes is at his best, when he has time to throw and survey the field. That's when he's probably his most dangerous. With the talents of Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, the Chiefs are set up to run quick passes, such as quick screen passes, quick slant passes. So I think the Chiefs offense is set up to run those types of plays and give the Texans defense some issues that way. Now, I will be hardcore rooting for the Texans, and I really hope for the second straight week they prove me wrong. However, I think the Chiefs offensively are going to be too much, and I don't think the Texans have the offensive firepower to keep up with the Chiefs. I have the Chiefs winning this game 31-17. Now, that's not our only game on Saturday. We got 2 games Saturday. This one coming in the evening at 5 p.m., where we see the 6-seed Washington Commanders head over to Ford Field to face the 1-seeded Detroit Lions. Now, The Commanders are coming off their thrilling 23-20 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jaden Daniels looked really, let's be honest here. Jaden Daniels looked like a 10-year vet in his first playoff game, right? And he continues to show that in the biggest moments, he just stays calm, cool, collected, and keeps leading these Commanders to victory time and time again. He's been showing it all season long. In his first playoff game, he threw for over 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's key there. No turnovers. That's big. And Daniels also may have found his wide receiver 2. I'm not sure, because all season his wide receiver 2 has kind of just been no, I don't want to say a stopgap, but it's been just been a fill where each week it kind of changes. Some week it's Zach Ertz, some weeks it's Zacchaeus. But in this first playoff game, Dyami Brown looked excellent as he tied the team in receiving yards and had 1 touchdown along with wide receiver Terry McLaurin. So maybe there's something there. Maybe Daniels has another target that he's going to be favoring in this game. Now, the Commanders were able to dominate time of possession, and the defense came up with a huge fumble recovery in the fourth quarter on their way to their first playoff win in 20 years. Now, this week, however, they will have their toughest challenge all season as they face Dan Campbell's Detroit Gritty Lions. Quarterback Jared Goff had arguably his best season of his entire career. His highest completion percentage at 72% and a career high in touchdowns with 37 passing touchdowns. Now, alongside Goff, the Lions had not 1, but 2 1,000-yard receivers on their team. Wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown led the team in receiving yards and just barely hitting that 1,000-yard thresh mark was wide receiver Jameson Williams. Now, the Lions also have the dynamic duo at running back with running back Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Now, Montgomery was thought to have been out for the season from an MCL injury that he suffered a couple of weeks ago. But as of the time of this recording, he has been a full participant in practice. He is off of the injury report, and he remains on track to play Saturday night. Absolutely incredible. I mean, everyone was talking about, like, man, on top of all these defensive losses, now you lose David Montgomery. That's huge. That's a huge injury to lose. But now you're getting him back just at the right time. And this is going to be scary for the Commanders' defense, having David Montgomery back in the lineup and seemingly close to 100%, it seems like, which is absolutely incredible. The Lions, as a team, had a whopping 29 rushing touchdowns this year. That is good for second most in the NFL, only behind the Buffalo Bills, who had, I believe, 32 rushing touchdowns this past season. Now, I mentioned those key defensive players who got injured this year. Some of those players, Aiden Hutchinson. I think they said he could potentially return for the Super Bowl. I don't know how likely that actually is, but we'll see if the Lions get there, and then from there will be a conversation on if Hutchinson will be able to play. They also lose Malcolm Rodriguez, Carlton Davis, and a bunch of other players. They are depleted defensively, but those players who have stepped up for the Lions, they've stepped up and still been able to dominate the line of scrimmage and been able to be effective defensively. Just go back to that Week 18 game against the Vikings where they gave Sam Darnold fits that game. Now, getting into those keys to victory, let's start with those visiting Commanders again, is you have to stop the Lions' run game. The Sonic and Knuckles duo is back, and if you've watched the Lions this year at all, they love to start the game with getting the run game going, which then opens up the play action. It opens up the passing game for Jared Goff. If you go back to the beginning of every Lions game, how do they start the game? They want to run it down your throat. They switch out Gibbs and Montgomery, and they've had multiple drives where they ran the ball every play on the drive, right? So they want to get that run game going. As soon as that run game gets going and it's taken off, boom, that's when you see the play action and the deep ball to Jameson Williams. So the Commanders on average give up 137.5 rushing yards per game. That is 30th in the NFL. Only 2 teams worse than that throughout the regular season. On the flip side, Detroit averages 146.5 rushing yards per game. That is 6th best in the NFL. So Washington need to shut down the run game because their pass defense is good. And I think they're going to give Goff some fits, show some coverages that Dan Quinn has, in his back pocket that might, make Goff a little bit uncomfortable. But if they don't stop the run game, an upset will be nearly impossible. And if they are not able to stop the run game, I have a hard time seeing a path to victory for the Washington Commanders. Now, for the Detroit Lions, their key to victory will be, can the defense stop Jaden? He's going to be the guy defensively you're honing in on. The Lions defense ranks 30th in the NFL in passing yards and 20th in the NFL in total yards. Now, they have stepped up at times and shown these glimpses of being really good. Having Anzalone back, that's huge for the defense and big for their playoff run. But they will be facing a dual-threat quarterback, which, go back, look at their season this year. They only faced a handful of dual-threat quarterbacks, and they all had very good games using their legs. If you go and look at the stats, look at the tape, look at the film, all of those dual-threat quarterbacks had really good games using their legs and being able to utilize that to their advantage against Detroit's defense. The Lions most likely are going to have to put a spy on Jaden Daniels the entire game and hope that the D-line can get pressure to Daniels, make him uncomfortable so he doesn't have time to go through his progressions, sit in the pocket, and find open receivers. Now, this game, again, I'm going to be rooting for the upset. And I love Jaden Daniels. I do love him. If you talk to my friends, they all know I love Jaden Daniels. And this Commanders team, I love Dan Quinn. But I have a hard time seeing the Commanders being able to stop Detroit's run game. I think it's going to be a closer game than people expect. But I have the Lions winning this game 27-23. So, those are the 2 games on Saturday. I have the Chiefs and I have the Lions advancing to the championship games. Our third matchup, as we head into Sunday's games, the first one is going to be in the NFC. It's going to be in Philadelphia as the Los Angeles Rams face the Philadelphia Eagles. And that game, I believe, is at 12 o'clock noon my time. The Rams are coming off their complete destruction of the Minnesota Vikings, where they were like a well-oiled machine on both sides of the football. Quarterback Matthew Stafford threw for 2 touchdowns, just over 200 yards, while the defense, my goodness, that Rams defense came to play against the Vikings. 9 sacks, 1 interception, and a fumble recovery that was returned for a touchdown by rookie Jared Verse. Now, the Rams defense, they're going to have a very tough assignment. Now, they were up to the challenge with Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Addison. However, they're going to have to be containing this Eagles offense, which, like I said last episode, the Packers were able to do, but Jalen Hurts is no longer rusty. He has an entire game under his belt. So I think that makes the challenge even harder for this young defense to be able to stop this Eagles offense, because they can beat you in so many ways. They can beat you in the pass game, they can beat you in the run game because you have Saquon Barkley, you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and then you have Jalen Hurts as well. And so even though Hurts didn't look great in that first game, I do expect him to play a lot better on Sunday. Now, the Eagles on the other side are coming off of their win against the Packers that saw Hurts only throw, like I said, 131 yards and only one catch for wide receiver A.J. Brown. Luckily for Philly, Saquon, he was still Saquon last week with 119 rushing yards and adding in a touchdown. Defense forced 4 turnovers, 3 picks, 1 fumble recovery on that opening kickoff on their way to the 22-10 victory. Hurts' performance was surprising, but when you think about it, he had not played a game in about 3 weeks. Rust was expected, but Jalen Hurts cannot afford to have another slow start as this Rams defense is hungry, and I'm telling you, they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder, and they are wanting to come in and beat these Eagles. Now, these teams did meet all the way back in Week 12. The Eagles won that game pretty handily, 37-20, as Saquon Barkley had an absolute monster of a game, rushing for a career-high 255 yards, adding in 2 touchdowns. Career-high 255 yards that day for Saquon. So, now we get into our keys to victory. Again, let's start with that road team. Let's start with the Los Angeles Rams and their key to an upset victory. The Rams need to get Cooper Kupp involved. Now, the Rams they've looked good offensively despite Kupp not being a factor. However, in these past few games, they have gone on stretches where the offense has just not done much, not done anything, not been able to move the ball. In his last 3 games, Cooper Kupp, here's last 3 games, 1 catch, 3 catches. All 3 of those games under 30 receiving yards. Now, the Rams have gotten by the last few weeks, but they're facing a different animal, literally, in the Philadelphia Eagles. They will need all of their offensive weapons, and I mean all of their offensive weapons. They need Puka to show up. They need Kyron to show up. They need Cooper Kupp to show up. Higbee, he's questionable, but they need Higbee to show up if he plays, and obviously, Stafford needs to ball. They all need to be effective if they want to pull off an upset, and Stafford's going to have to get Kupp the ball, as he is one of the most important pieces, if not the most important piece in this offense. If Cooper Kupp isn't a factor offensively, the recipe to Rams of getting a victory, very hard, very difficult, if Cooper Kupp isn't involved, and I'm sure Sean McVay knows that. So I would expect a lot of early passes to go Kupp's way and specific plays designed specifically to get Cooper Kupp the football early in the game. Now, other side, Philadelphia Eagles, their key to victory is the recipe they had in Week 12. Let Saquon eat. Let Saquon get going. Let Barkley eat. The Eagles didn't have to rely that much on Jalen Hurts last week. And then if you look at the Week 12 game, they didn't really have to rely on Jalen Hurts that game either. Back in that Week 12 matchup against the Rams, he only threw for 179 yards. So the recipe for success, it's already there for the Eagles. They've already faced this team. They beat this team. And it wasn't like, oh, this was a close game. They dominated this team. So why change that game plan? I understand, things have changed a little bit. Teams have made certain moves, different schemes. I'm sure the Rams have been watching a lot of film on Saquon. But honestly, until the Rams can show that they're going to be able to stop Saquon Barkley, let the guy eat. because the Rams give up on average 130 rushing yards per game. The Eagles average almost 180 rushing yards per game. So the recipe is just right. It's right in your face. Get Saquon the ball, let him eat, let him drive this offense down the field. If the Eagles can get that run game going, they should have no problem sustaining long drives. And when you're running the ball, you're taking a lot of time off of that clock as well. I think the Rams will keep this game close for a while, but I think the Eagles run away, literally with Saquon Barkley, with this game at the end. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles winning 34-24. Now that takes us to our fourth and final matchup, and I think this is going to be our best matchup. As Sunday afternoon at 3:30, we have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Buffalo and facing off against the Buffalo Bills. This is the matchup we've all been waiting for. The two MVP frontrunners facing off head-to-head with the spot in the AFC Championship game on the line. Ravens had no problem taking care of the Steelers as they ran for nearly 300 total yards on the ground alone. And no surprise to anyone, Derrick Henry was leading the way with 186 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in the rout against Pittsburgh. Now, Lamar looked fairly comfortable in the pocket, even without his wide receiver one, Zay Flowers. He spread the ball around, hitting 7 different receivers in that game. Now, Flowers, as of this recording, he is considered questionable to play in the game, but he's yet to participate in practice this week. He's been a do not participate on Wednesday and today on Thursday. So it's difficult for me to see him being ready to play on Sunday. And, looking at it is how effective is he going to be? But we're going to get a little into that a little bit later. On the other side, the Bills did not let an early deficit tear their team down as they went on to score 31 unanswered points on their way to their 31-7 rout of the Denver Broncos. Quarterback Josh Allen looked right at home, throwing for 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, add in those 46 rushing yards. Great day for Josh Allen. Now he, like Lamar Jackson, spread the ball all around. He one-upped Lamar. He hit 8 different receivers during that game against the Broncos. And James Cook ran all over that Broncos defense, totaling 120 rushing yards on the ground and adding in a touchdown. Now, these two teams did meet this season, but we got to go all the way back to week 4. That game was in Baltimore, and the Ravens ran away with that game, winning 35-10. Now, the weather is going to be a huge factor in this game, I think, with freezing temperatures are expected. And again, as I'm recording this episode, 50% chance of snow during that game. I mean, what's better than a snow playoff game? I mean, I'm excited. I'm pumped for it. That's playoff football right there, where you got below freezing temperatures in the snow. Every tackle hurts, but man, it's going to be so fun to watch, and I am super excited for this game. Now, both quarterbacks are 2 of the league's best running quarterbacks, and I expect them both to use their legs quite often in this game with the weather conditions that are expected. Now, enough dilly-dallying. It's keys to victory time. Again, we're going to start with the road team here, Baltimore Ravens. Their key to victory is who will step up in the receiving game. Like I said, even if Zay Flowers is able to suit up, and it looks very unlikely right now, he will certainly, if he somehow plays, is going to be on a snap count, and you cannot rely on him to be effective battling that knee injury that he's battling. You can't expect him to not participate in practice almost all week. Who knows? Maybe he's a limited participant tomorrow. Maybe he is. But barely practice all week and then expect him to just go out against one of the better defenses in the NFL and be effective. So who's going to step up in the pass game? The Ravens were able to get past the Steelers despite their leader in receptions was backup running back Justice Hill. He led the team in receptions with 4. And then you had the receiving leader in yards, Isaiah Likely, with 53 yards. Even though the conditions are in the Ravens' favor, I think that eventually, at some point in this game, they're going to need someone to step up in the pass game. They're going to need someone to take over the pass game, whether that's Mark Andrews, who's been there, done that before, whether it's Rashad Bateman, wanting, this is his moment in the light, or someone else. They need someone to be a threat, receiving-wise, to that Bills defense, so their run game can be more effective. But I think at some point, someone is going to have to step up in the receiving game for the Baltimore Ravens. The Buffalo Bills' key to victory is, can you contain Derrick Henry and Lamar to under 150 total rushing yards? The weather conditions say it's going to be a run the rock kind of game. And even when you know Derrick Henry is getting the rock, even though you know they're handing off the pigskin to Derrick Henry, he's still a damn tough guy to bring down. And the Ravens thin at wide receiver, this game plan is going to be heavily focused on Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson taking off and using their legs. Now, on average, the Bills give up 115.5 rushing yards per game. The Baltimore Ravens averaged 187.6 rushing yards per game during the regular season. I think if the Bills, so that's where I came up with this number. I kind of saw the two numbers, said, okay, where's kind of a middle, because 115 seems unlikely. I said 150. If the Bills can hold the Ravens to under 150 rushing yards, I like their chances of coming out on top. I think they have a legit shot, even though they're considered underdogs at home, which is wild to me. This game is going to come down to the wire, and possibly going to come down to the final play of the game. But with all that being said, I have the Ravens winning a defensive battle 20-17. Alrighty. So, there are my predictions. There are my thoughts on these divisional games starting in just a couple of days. But that is not the end of our show. No, folks. Like I said, we're adding in more elements. I know you guys saw the highlights rolling while I was talking. I hope you enjoyed that. But we're not done. We're going to add something else into the show. Prize Picks. So, if you guys don't know, Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app that is legal in California, where you choose player props, player squares, as they call them on the app, for different stat lines, and you pick more or less, and you try and win some money. So I've been doing Prize Picks for almost 2 years now, I think. I started in March 2023, according to my account. So almost 2 years now I've been doing Prize Picks. I mean, I feel like I'm decent at it. I'm not great, but I'm not awful. I think I'm okay at it, average. So why not I give you guys a Prize Pick square from each divisional game? And if you have Prize Picks, if you don't have Prize Picks, download Prize Picks, have some fun, enjoy some games, and maybe win a little bit of money. So I'm going to give you guys squares from each game, Now, these lines can change, but these lines are at the time of recording. So, by the time this comes out, lines may change, alter a little bit, but here's what they are at the time of recording. For the Chiefs versus Texans game, give me Patrick Mahomes over 250.5 passing yards. This has hit in 3 of his last 5 starts, including when they faced Houston in Week 16. So, I really like my odds with that. Mahomes in the playoffs always seems to take it up a gear. So 250, I think he's going to hit that mark in this game. For the Commanders versus Lions, give me Brian Robinson Jr. under 36.5 rushing yards. With the Lions' run defense being top 5 in the NFL this season and having the competition of Jaden Daniels and Austin Eckler in the run game. And I know you said that you laugh and you go, Austin Eckler in the run game? Come on now. Look at last game against Tampa Bay. Brian Robinson Jr., 10 carries. Austin Eckler, 8. At this point, they're almost splitting carries. And then you add Jaden Daniels into that, who's going to be taking off and using his legs a lot. I don't think he's going to be super effective against the Lions defense, and I think if they get down early, they're going to be passing the ball a lot. So I think under 36.5 rushing yards for Brian Robinson Jr. For the Rams versus the Eagles, I talked about him earlier. Give me Cooper Kupp over 41.5 receiving yards. I know he hasn't gotten the ball a lot as of late, but I think McVay and Stafford are going to make it a priority to get Cooper Kupp the football. So I think that this line goes over. I don't remember a game where Cooper Kupp's line was this low. 41.5 receiving yards. I think he gets involved early and often. I think he goes over that fairly early on in the game. That's probably my most confident pick, actually. Out of all 4 I'm about to give, that's probably my most confident one. I feel the best in is that. Last game, Ravens and Bills. There were actually quite a few that I liked in this. Mostly rushing lines, obviously, with the conditions of the game and everything. Considered Lamar Jackson under 1.5 passing touchdowns, just again because of the weather. I think it's going to be a rushing type game. So that was a close second, but in the end, Josh Allen over 46.5 rushing yards. With these weather conditions and being in the QB's favor to run, I think we're going to see him take off, use his legs a lot on Sunday. So there are my 4 prize picks. Mahomes over passing yards. Brian Robinson Jr. under rushing yards. Cooper Kupp over receiving yards. And finally, I had Josh Allen over rushing yards. So there are my predictions and prize picks lines. For the prize picks, go ahead to either tail or fade me. It's up to you. But hopefully you win some money this weekend if you decide to use prize picks. And if you tail me and it loses, don't blame me, please. But be sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on all social media. Comment your thoughts on my predictions, where you agree, where you disagree with what I said. I want to thank you all again so much for tuning in to another episode of the J Sports NFL Show. I am your host, Joshua Nowakowski. Enjoy some football this weekend, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.